Hey everybody, Rich Kreps with Ultra Grow, 10 o'clock. Gonna have a quick little webinar. We want to get ahead of post-harvest. I know it's July, but I also know there's almond farmers that are starting shake next week. So we want to make sure we get ahead of this. Sometimes we feel like we end up behind the eight ball. When you guys are in the middle of harvest, it's really tough to have a conversation with you at that point. And the last thing you want to see is a fertilizer salesman. So by the time we get around to post-harvest, we usually end up being just a little bit late, or if not, a lot of it late. So we wanted to address this real quick, and I'll make a little promise to you right now. I've got a timer set right here in front of me, and I want to keep this 15 minutes or less. If it goes any longer, it'll just be because of questions, if there are any, but I want to make this quick, let you guys get back to work and just give you some things to think about. We had a meeting last week with a bunch of farmers here, and there were a lot of questions that came up over post-harvest. We were talking about specific products and heat stress, but a lot of it moved into post-harvest, and some guys said, we used to do that, and we got away from it. So we kind of like to think about that a little bit. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'll open this up, and we'll get started. Post-harvest fertility window. Lots of times it ends up being October or November when we start thinking about it or getting around to it. And often we convolute the whole soil amendment thing with the feeding our plant thing. And that needs to be something completely different. There's a time for amending your soil, but there's a time to certainly feed your plant for sure. So speaking of time, thank you for yours. This is going to be quick. The address in the beginning is some solutions. And then because we are a fertilizer company, obviously that's how we keep lights on around here, is trying to help you get some nutrition into your plants and not just putting something on your plants. But if you're putting nutrition out, it's not getting in or it's way too late. I feel like oftentimes we've just wasted the money. So we want to make that process a whole lot more efficient. And we think post-harvest nutrition should begin in between shakes. And also want to remind you, we have no problem coming and injecting it for you. So as you move on to another field, your crop advisor will come in, grab a pressure pump or work on your system if the water's on, and we will put nutrition back into the plant right away or get those going. So most products, our programs are built for spring, not for what comes after. This is a nutritional chart that we always talk about when the demand hits really heavy. If you notice in April, and that's just the 4 months that were measured here, you back this off into March, even late February for almonds, and it's going to be about the same. These two lines look very similar. Phosphorus line, though, they're in green. It is obviously not 3%, so this is multiplied times 10. So it's going to be 0.3%. If we can start that high, we're pretty darn happy. But this just continues to taper through July. This probably should have been extended out to August and September, but we want that curve to go right back up as soon as we shake, because phosphorus is needed so much in adenosine triphosphate, the Krebs cycle, making energy. You've got to get phosphorus back in the plant quickly. We want to build this back up to give the plant the ability to recover for itself, but also so then we start as high as we can in the spring. That's when N and P need to be highest, and phosphorus is very tough to get into a plant when it's wet, and especially if it's not in an ortho form. If it's in a poly form, it's going to be very tough. So if you start in between shakes, the roots are going to flush immediately. You just beat those trees up pretty good. So then all of a sudden you've got a little room in the ground, you've opened some things up, the water comes on, and those roots are starting to flush and reach for nutrition. So much of the nutrient recovery then is going to be energy dependent. You've got to take up phosphorus, nitrogen, potassium, calcium, magnesium for photosynthesis. You've got to get that back up in the plant and allow it to do what it's going to do to get into proper photosynthetic response. You need phosphorus to make that happen. We're always good at putting on nitrogen and probably little potassium, and then in soil amendment, putting on calcium and sulfate. But try to get that in early. And also a little quick snippet, don't forget about Molly. The UC used to say we needed a pint every 3 years. I like a pint right now at post-harvest to make your nitrogen that much more efficacious. We know how well Molly works on that. And zinc is also really good at making nitrogen work. We know tree crops need a lot of zinc and boron coming out at bloom, so get a little bit of that in as well. That'll help with making things happen a whole lot faster. And remember, that window of when you get nutrition in, that is invisible on a leaf tissue chart right here. We're not going to see it. We have to be cognizant of it. Those trees can't move, so we've got to feed them. So the plant is baking carbohydrates at this time. When the photosynthesis starts ramping back up again, and remember, we've lost some leaves and shake, and they're going to be a little dirty too during harvest. We want to get those back up to full photosynthetic capacity so we can store carbohydrates, get that ready for winter. That's how a plant survives through the winter season and it gets its recovery and its rest. We fill the belly full of food, it can recover. Shaking, that's an ass kicking your trees just took, right? So they ran a marathon, so they're already tired, and then they got beat up during shake. Make that happen by recovering them, or make the recovery that much better by giving them the nutrition they need to recover to overcome the stresses of harvest. If we wait till October and November, it's way too late. And now your roots are going to stay that much more active. They start to flesh and stretch. We give them the energy. We give them the nitrogen to build proteins. We give potassium so it can open and close stomata to take nutrients with it. We give it calcium so as those cells divide in that root flush, calcium is going to help drive that and also build structure in all of those cells. Most programs are going to be way too late. We want to start a whole lot earlier. Another point to consider that's starting to gain traction, people are talking about a little more right now, is the potential for El Nino. There's some buoys out there now in the middle of the Pacific that are showing 2 degrees higher, talking about a whole lot of warmer water coming in. If that's the case, we know how those pineapple expresses that now they call atmospheric rivers, but when they hit hard. And when things get wet, the ground then is going to stay saturated that much longer. Now we start bringing in more fungal and soil-borne pathogens, but if it also hits early, now it may be an issue trying to get out even soil amendments to get them in. Good news is if more moisture comes, we can actually bring more gypsum or SOP into a soil and probably solubilize a little bit more of it. But remember, gypsum is like 1/4% soluble, SOP 7%. So you're still not getting all of it, but you might get a little more if it's wet. But if the water sits in the root zone, you're going to have some more issues with fungal and soil-borne pathogens. So we've also got a product we call Control we like to put in the mix. Phosphite helps move phosphate, but it's also been shown to have a pretty good antifungal effect as well when we put it in as a nutrient. Sodium. People talk about leaching salt. Almost every fertilizer is a salt. But you want to leach the most available to leach, which is sodium. Get that out, and if it's wet, you can do that by adding soluble cations, calcium, magnesium, potassium, in a soluble form, not locked to an anion, so it can grab onto the soil colloid and it can kick more sodium off, and we can get a much better leaching fraction in winter. So we have 4 products that we really love to use immediately after harvest to get into the mix. One we call Rhizoplex ATP, Rhizoplex Calcium, Rhizoplex Marine. So we give you different options depending on what you've already done or what your typical post-harvest protocol is to make that more efficacious. And we also have a product called Synstack ATP. You used to know it as 217-17. That we try to put into the mix as well that works really good foliarly to ramp up P&K upstairs very quickly. But there's more than just those names. We used to call them 3 things like 217-17 or 7-14-7. But when you have 15 other ingredients in the mix, we feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot by calling it by 3 numbers. So the Rhizoplex line, what we did is we took the soil booster and soil treatment that we've made for years and was kind of 40 years ago, we were pioneering the industry with putting biology, active biology that we brewed into the mix, into the ground with your NPKs, also into some of the foliars. But as prices went up, especially this year with nitrogen prices, as things started getting tougher to farm, water prices going through the roof, guys started backing back off again on the biology. So it's adding a bunch of extra benefits to the nutrition that you're putting out to make it work better. You're going to see there's a 5% bacterial fermentation media, 11% organic matter. We put different carbon sources in. We put different plant extracts into that mix as well to make sure that those nutrients you're trying to chase, P and K, plus all the micronutrients that are with that product, then can create the enzymatic reactions we want to get that nutrition into the plant. We're not just putting it on, we're getting it into the plant. Rhizoplex Calcium, the reason we swapped that out, calcium and phosphorus do not play well together. So we wanted to have a specific calcium product so you could get that in at the same time. So we'll split up those applications so you get both. You get the NPK and you'll get the calcium as well. But now you've got all of the cooks in the kitchen and the biology and the plant extracts and the extra carbon that make that work that much better. So feeding the soil biome, going into winter. We really like Rhizoplex Marine. If your nitrogen applications are going to be specific and very high, and this is a program we've always used, we're not going to tweak it, then we go with the Rhizo ATP. If you want us to help you a little bit with that nitrogen, this is a 5-10-10-5 or 5-10-5 formulation, the Rhizoplex Marine, but we've added a fish hydrolysate, which is really good at gene upregulation and making enzymatics work that much better. And we've also added a seaweed extract in Ascophyllum nodosum, the most studied seaweed extract out there, but that's also going to help them with your stress relief when you put this on post-harvest, because we know the benefits of what seaweed can do to help that. So that's also in the mix. There's also the bacterial fermentation medium and the humic acids as well. This is immediately available nutrition, and it is kept separate from itself because of all the different carbon fingers that are in the mix of this that are just great complexers and not necessarily chelators, but complexers. We're storing more carbon. That's going to store more water. That's going to feed more biology. We're putting it all in together in one mix. The Synstack ATP is a great foliar product. We love this upstairs to get P and K for energy into the plant, K for opening and closing stomata, put it up in the leaves right where it's needed to be. But if you go in with a spray of this, you're also then, as some of that water runs off the leaves, the nutrition that's going in is great. Whatever hits the ground can also be reabsorbed, but you're going to rinse the leaves. Those are your solar panels. Harvest is dirty. You clean panels and you dramatically increase photosynthesis. That is what we're trying to do with a foliar spray. And then we're also attacking the plant from both regions. We're trying to fix what it can take up in the ground. We're also trying to put stuff upstairs. So we're attacking from the bottom and from the top. And we think that's a much better way to really get proper nutrition into a plant, especially after the stresses of harvest. I like to apply that early in the morning or in the evening when things have cooled down. The stomata start opening up as well. We think we get better absorption as we rinse those leaves and nutrients start getting pulled in. And the extra small carbon sources we've got in this mix also take some of that nutrition in with it much more efficaciously so that we can actually, again, get it in the plant and not just putting it on. We like to apply this way before your canopy shuts down, and we will help you do this. So if you're thinking about, you've done a shake, you're moving on, water's coming on, you moved on to the next field. Our crop advisors will come out, we will sit on a tote, on a bubble, we'll bring buckets, whatever needs to be done, pressure pumps, we can help you put this nutrition into the ground so you don't even have to think about it. That's going to make your life a whole lot easier, and then we know we've gotten way ahead of the curve of getting proper nutrition back into the plant. Immediately post-harvest, in between shakes is great. Within 1 to 2 weeks, we love to get that foliar in now. You're going to give it another big drink. You've got to let it dry down a little bit so you can get your spray rigs through, or just go right over the top, no compaction whatsoever, and spray it on. You can do it with as little as 10 gallons. It's probably cheaper when you factor in your labor and your wear and tear on your equipment and your diesel to just spray it on, put a foliar over the top of that mix. And in your mid post-harvest window, then you wait another week. Now we suck in the calcium. Those roots are really flushing right now. We've built structure. We allowed then the roots to divide that much faster at those root tips, strengthening cell walls ahead of the winter stress. And then before leaf drop, I'd like to come back in with one more good drink that's going to really exacerbate getting the P and the nitrogen back up as high as it needs to be in the spring. So we can come in with another ground shot. And these shots are like 5 gallons, right? 2 gallons foliar, 5 gallons of the other products in the ground. We love putting that on. If you do have to amend your soil, you're putting on gypsum or you're putting on SOP. If it is an El Nino season, you may not even be able to get in to make that happen, depending on when that moisture comes. And I just have issues with products that are 0.25% or even 7% soluble, as opposed to products that are 100% soluble. So we think we're a lot cheaper. We're putting it through the fertigation. Those are the wetting patterns that the majority of your roots have grown into. So that's what the concentration of roots are. We're putting it in a fertigation in that exact spot where the plants can take it up. And if we are able to push out some sodium, we've now added more calcium, we've added more potassium, we've added more magnesium in that zone as we're pushing the sodium back out of the mix. So we think it's very efficacious. These shots at 5 gallons at $70 compared to cheaper than a ton of gyp without application costs, without compaction, way cheaper than 400 pounds of SOP. And if your soils are already high, you look at your soil test and you're already high on sulfates, you don't need to be adding more sulfates, which is the second part of that salt that you're putting bulk amounts on. Let's put on the nutrients you need. Let those sulfates that are already in the ground now start to react and do their thing. and then reconstitute a little bit instead of just keep adding more and more that's grabbing every cat I can find around. So a lot of reasons why we think this is that much more efficacious, but we want to help you make that work. Our guys are ready. We'll come into the field. We will help put that on for you. So when you roll out, you know that we're behind you. You've got a team that's making this happen. You don't have to think about it, but your plants got fed properly, not just soil amending later, but fed at the right time. We know your time is valuable. We can't thank you enough for being here. I tried to keep this 15 minutes. Looks like I'm 15 and 22 seconds. So even as fast as I talk, I might have got just a little long on that one, but post-harvest does not start late in the fall. Post-harvest starts right now when you start harvest. So we're here to help you. We thank you for your time. We want to make your crops have much higher yields, optimize those, and in turn, make you much more profitable. We want to be your trusted team to make that happen. We really appreciate the trust and your time. Thank you so much. I'll drop out of this screen share and see if there's any questions. Love that. Thank you. Yes, the biology is good damn near any time, but you think about semi-arid soils that we have here in the Central Valley. You know how long it takes us to get to 50? It's late into December or January before the soils get slow enough that everything slows down. But cold temps don't kill your biology. All they do is just slow them down. They don't replicate as fast as they did. But a point that I didn't make in the middle of the presentation on biology is that can be knocked back by pesticides and herbicides and fungicides or too much water where the soil-borne pathogens take back over a little bit. So the continual re-inoculation, I think, is fantastic. You want to overpower the bad with the good, and then specific strains of Pseudomonas, Bacillus, actinomycetes. Those things then are mining so much more of the nutrition that's in your ground, like iron or phosphorus, or making calcium and potassium and magnesium more available. Those are the cooks in the kitchen. I try to put biology on all year long in my pistachio, but especially in the guys I consult for, I want to keep inoculating all the time so we can build as good of a population of beneficial bacteria as we possibly can. It's a great question. All right, we did it. There's going to be some questions that come in later after people watch this online. Plus, some of my farmers like to call me afterwards and give me a little flack for talking too fast and ask some more questions. So we'll do this again in a couple weeks. Really appreciate your time, your attention, and whatever we can do to help, we're here to do that. So there's an entire team behind every one of us crop advisors at UltraGrow. We want to be your trusted team. Really appreciate your time. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day and try to stay cool out there.